Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you're joining us. Welcome to Spaceflight Now's live coverage of the latest mission from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. I'm Will Robinson Smith, reporter with Spaceflight Now. So good to have you with us here locally on Sunday morning. We're broadcasting as we always do from the Spaceflight Now News Bureau here at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. Coming up to the top of the hour here shortly, as SpaceX is just about 59 minutes away from the planned liftoff of this Falcon 9 rocket you see standing tall at Space Launch Complex 40. On board today's Falcon 9 rocket, 28 Starlink V2 mini satellites getting ready to head up into low Earth orbit. As of now, SpaceX is targeting a departure of this rocket at 6:53 a.m. Eastern, 10:53 UTC for those joining around the world. That's just about 20 minutes before sunrise. So, as we were talking about behind the scenes before we got rolling with the broadcast, we are in prime conditions potentially for a good jellyfish effect following liftoff. Again, that's assuming that the T0 doesn't shift at this point in time, and we'll know more definitively in a little more than 20 minutes once the SpaceX launch director has given the go for launch, and a little bit after that, once fueling has begun. It is quite early here in the United States, so certainly want to thank our U.S. audience for getting up early. Appreciate the more than 300 of you who are with us at this juncture. If you haven't already, could do us a big favor. Just click that like button and share the stream. Allows more folks to find their way into this live launch coverage today. Want to thank our moderators in the chat who are helping us out today. Big thanks to Mark Otto and Aussie Space Girl, who notes it is 7:50 p.m. down in Australia, so a much more reasonable time for a launch like this. We're certainly happy for our friends around the globe for whom it is a much more sensible hour, not still dark outside. You can help our mods with the live chat, helping to keep things kosher there, just by following our chat rules. We ask that you post your messages in English so that our mods can respond as appropriate. Also, we ask that you don't delve into overt politics or religion. Also, hold off on typing in all caps. Emojis are perfectly fine. We just ask that you don't create a huge block of them with multiple lines of emoji. That way, it doesn't take up a huge percentage of the chat, and other people can see their messages and talk with one another. And last but certainly not least, we ask that you treat each other with the kindness and respect that you yourself would like to be treated, and we'll all get along swimmingly. This and all of our live launch opportunities are made possible in no small part from our wonderful channel member community here on YouTube. So thanks to folks like Mark Pachotnik, Joni, Parker Isaacson, lofty landscapes, and many others. Lloyd Green, good morning to you. Channel membership comes with a number of perks, including discounts at our online shop, which is shop.spacelightnow.com. Access to member-only videos here on YouTube, access to our members-only Discord server, and of course, the ability to watch all of our live launch liftoff moments from here in Florida in 4K. Also, one of our channel members, Cumulus Granatus, is available in the chat to help answer folks' questions as we cruise on through the count. That said, if you do have a specific comment or question, or just want to offer a little support this morning, you want your comment or query potentially elevated for discussion in the broadcast, you can use the YouTube Super Chat feature. Not only will you be giving us some interesting things to talk about as we cruise on through the count, but you'll also be supporting what we do here in Spaceflight Now, and that, my friends, is always greatly appreciated. Not going to spend too much time talking about the weather this morning. Conditions are very good for a launch today. Meteorologists forecast a 90% chance for favorable weather during the launch opportunity this morning. Just a small chance for interference by cumulus clouds, which we certainly won't discount since we've seen violations for cumulus clouds before stuff emissions. So not to be discounted, but the probability of that happening is quite low today, which is always good. Should also mean that visibility will be quite nice as we're tracking the Falcon 9 upon its ascent from Florida's Space Coast. Looking at a satellite overview of the Florida Peninsula, you can see just some very thin clouds streaming across central Florida. So not only will things likely be good for liftoff from a meteorological perspective, but also launch viewing should be quite nice as the Falcon 9 starts to make its climb uphill. We'll talk more specifically about trajectory in a little bit once we get closer to liftoff, but broadly speaking, the rocket will head off in a northeasterly trajectory, heading along the east coast of the United States. So given the hour, it should be quite nice viewing for folks from Central Florida on up along the East Coast. If you are able to catch a glimpse of the Falcon 9 rocket, be sure to tag us on social media. We're on X, Blue Sky, Threads, and Facebook. Working behind the scenes and off the mic are our wonderful team. Our photographer, John Pisani, along with our Spaceflight Now editor, Stephen Young, are running the technical operations of the broadcast today. Adam Bernstein out and about in the field, making sure all the cameras are in good working order and focus, framed up nicely, getting ready to track the Falcon 9 upon its ascent. You can find our full photographer slate right here on your screen. Find them on X. Be sure to follow them if you're not already. See some of their great work that happens both on and off air. You can find Adam at A Burn NYC. Michael Kane is at MD Kane Jr. John Pisani at John Pisani Photo. And again, Spaceflight Now as a company. We're on Threads, Blue Sky, Facebook, and X. We'll also be joined a little bit later on the broadcast by our friends Chuck and Jen Briggs with C&J Images, along with Pete Karstens with Max Q Productions. If you haven't had a chance to pop around our YouTube channel this weekend, we've got quite a bit of new content up to satisfy your launch viewing needs. Got a 4K replay from a launch that happened last Sunday that took off from this pad as well. That was the launch of NG-23, the first flight of a Northrop Grumman Cygnus XL spacecraft, which has been safely berthed to the International Space Station. Brought aboard about 11,000 pounds of cargo and science to the astronauts on board who've been busily unpacking. That vehicle set to remain on station through the March timeframe of next year. However, in November, it will be briefly unberthed if mission managers decide that that is an operation that they feel comfortable with. And that will help clear the corridor for the arrival of the next crewed Soyuz spacecraft. If ISS mission managers and the international partners decide that unberthing and rebirthing Cygnus is just not going to work out, then they'll go ahead and do what they would for any end of a mission for a Cygnus vehicle and load it up with trash and send it on its way. Cygnus vehicle is not designed for re-entry and reuse, so once it is unberthed, it will make its way back into the atmosphere where it's designed to burn up and disintegrate. One of the benefits of that, even though you aren't going to get anything back from the ISS on a Cygnus, but what you can do is set it up where you can perform some more potentially volatile experiments that would be a little too risky to perform while it's docked to the space station or certainly within the ISS itself. So things that concern more pyrotechnics and fire elements can be done on a Cygnus once it has been unberthed and sent on its merry way. So one of the benefits of not reusing a spacecraft in this instance. So again, that 4K replay with all of our photographers in the loop, that's up on the channel right now. Also, of course, on Tuesday is when NASA is targeting the launch of a rideshare mission from over at Launch Complex 39A. There are a pair of pre-launch briefings that are actually coming up later on today. So for those wanting to learn more about the rideshare mission anchored by NASA's IMAP, you can go ahead and listen into that. Again, that's happening later on today. IMAP is NASA's Interstellar Mapping and Acceleration Probe. And as it concerns the channel, we do have a brand new explainer on that spacecraft and its science mission, as well as one of the other rideshare missions that is the Space Weather Follow-on Lagrange 1 or SWIFO L1 spacecraft from NOAA. Both those videos are up right now, and we should be completing that trio for the trio launching a little bit later on, either today or tomorrow at the very latest. Want to pop over, get you a live view of Launch Complex 39A. The rocket is expecting to emerge from the hangar on the right-hand side of your screen and make its way out to the launch pad there on the far left. This will be a good visual to run alongside the news conference with NASA and NOAA folks at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That'll be followed by a NASA science briefing coming up about an hour and 15 minutes after that. So if after you've seen our videos on the spacecraft, you want to hear more from the mission managers, you've got a couple of opportunities to plug in and check those out as well. Of course, we've got plenty of launches as well throughout the course of this upcoming week from both here in Florida as well as over in California. So now's a great time to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring that bell icon, and that way you'll be notified when we do publish new videos as well as start new live streams. Taking a look at our live chat, speaking of, want to thank K2 Hat for a $5 super chat. Says, good morning. Thanks for the coverage again. Hello from Mico, Florida, 50 miles south of the Cape. Had a number of folks popping into the chat as well, asking about some of the best watching spots for rocket launch. There are plenty of spots along the Indian River Lagoon, the Banana River specifically, that are good for Pad 39A and also not too shabby for Slick 40 as well. But if you want some of the best insights and tips on that, our friend Ben Cooper actually has a really good launch viewing breakdown. You can go ahead and check out on his website. If you just Google Ben Cooper photography launch viewing, that should come up. Launchphotography.com, as John is reminding me in my ear. Thank you, John. Time now, T minus 43 minutes, 15 seconds and counting to the planned liftoff of this Falcon 9 rocket here today. Coming up in just about 5 minutes is the point at which the SpaceX launch director is set to make the call on the start of prop load. As we're awaiting that milestone, let's go ahead and take a beat to talk about the countdown timeline, the series of events that we're looking forward to ahead of the liftoff of this Falcon 9 rocket from Pad 40. Today's launch will represent the 536th launch of a Falcon 9 rocket for SpaceX, as well as the 119th Falcon 9 flight so far this year. Once the SpaceX launch director has made the call that they are good to step into the prop loading effort, tanking begins at T-minus 35 minutes with the loading of RP-1, which is a rocket-grade kerosene. That happens on board both the Falcon 9's first and second stages. Simultaneously, liquid oxygen will flow on board the rocket's first stage. 30 minutes out is when SpaceX starts to load a cryogenic helium into the pressure vessels for the Falcon 9's first stage. Same will be true on the second stage a few minutes after that. That helium is important because it's used to pressurize the main propellant tanks during flight. 23 minutes out, the second stage RP-1 tank is full. And at T-minus 20 minutes and 50 seconds, we should see the so-called big vent. Actually happens about 30 seconds after the chill down process begins, which is at T-minus 20 minutes and 50 seconds. The venting lasts a little bit less than 4 minutes here at Pad 40 and sets the stage for liquid oxygen to start flowing on board the rocket's upper stage at the 16-minute mark. T-minus 7 minutes is when the chill down of the 9 Merlin engines begins. SpaceX will flow a small amount of liquid oxygen through the plumbing and turbo pumps. That helps protect the engines from the risk of thermal shock and damage during startup. About 6 minutes out, the first stage kerosene tank is full. At T-minus 4.5 minutes, we'll see the retraction of the strong back. First, the clamp arms just beneath the payload fairings will open up, and then the transporter erector, otherwise referred to as the strong back, will recline a few degrees away from the Falcon 9 rocket. It stays in that position until liftoff. And at that point, it'll pull back in a much more rapid fashion to clear the way for the vertical climb of the Falcon 9. 3 minutes before takeoff, the first stage liquid oxygen tank should be full. At T-minus 2 minutes, same will be true on the second stage. At that point, the Falcon 9 rocket will be fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. In the final 60 seconds, as we hear the call that the Falcon 9 is in startup, Control of the countdown is handed over from the ground sequencer to the Falcon 9's onboard flight computers. At the same time, the propellant tanks will be brought up to flight pressure. SpaceX launch director will then give their go for launch call T minus 45 seconds. The engine ignition command is issued at T minus 3 seconds. And if all 9 Merlin engines are healthy and ignite as expected, the command will be given for the hold down clamps to release the Falcon 9 rocket for a teaser liftoff coming up at 6:53 a.m. Eastern, 10:53 UTC, or just about 39 and a half minutes from now. Time now T minus 38 minutes, 19 seconds and counting. Falcon 9 first stage booster that's supporting this mission has the tail number 1085. It's going to be making its 11th flight today, so certainly another reuse marker for that booster, but not quite enough to put it in contention for the Falcon 9 Frequent Flyers Club. Taking a look at that right now, you can see here's the most flown boosters for SpaceX at the moment. It's been a couple launches since we've had an adjustment to this top list. We'll, of course, keep tabs on those boosters and see when next they fly, especially B1067, which continues to be the flight leader for SpaceX. Here's the bar chart comparing this year against the years gone by. SpaceX has been targeting 170 launches before years out and has been flying at a pace of about one launch every roughly 2 days or so. Given some weather delays, though, it does seem like it will be quite challenging for them to get to that 170 marker by the end of the year, but we'll see how close they end up actually getting. It's barring just a string of really bad weather at a certain point later in the year. Very, very reasonable that they'll hit at least 150, maybe 160 before year's out. So we'll see how it all ends, but they're very much on pace to eclipse last year's record total of 134 launches. One bit of promising news in that regard, as far as their effort to hit as close to 170 as possible, is unlike the last couple of years, there are no Falcon Heavies remaining on the schedule this year. It seems as though Astrobotics Griffin 1 mission may be slipping into 2026, and that was, to my recollection, the only possible Falcon Heavy launch on the docket for this year. So look for the next Falcon Heavy launch in the next calendar year. We are getting views now from our friends Chuck and Jen Briggs with CNJ Images from their vantage point on Merritt Island. Certainly appreciate them joining us. And as you can see in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, we are just on the cusp of T minus 35 minutes, barring any additional changes to the T0 here. SpaceX is about to start fueling its Falcon 9 rocket, now underway. There's quite a bit of heat distortion in between our cameras and the rocket today, so discerning the start of fueling may be a little bit tricky, but we'll do our level best. We should start to see some signs of a frost line forming and a little bit of vapor near the base of the rocket in roughly the next 2 to 3 minutes. Now T minus 31 minutes, 9 seconds and counting. Just taking a little more time to be sure that what we're seeing isn't just a heat wave mirage and that the Falcon 9 is actually tanking before we went ahead and made that call. So we are starting to see the expansion of that frost line at the base of the booster, which means SpaceX is in fact fueling their Falcon 9 rocket, locking in that T0 time of 6:53 a.m. Eastern, 10:53 UTC. At this point in the count, SpaceX is also just about to start loading cryogenic helium onto the pressure vessels for the Falcon 9 first stage. Time now T minus 28 minutes, 52 seconds and counting. For those of you who are just joining us, you're watching Spaceflight Now's live coverage of the Starlink 10-27 mission. Starting to see a little color in the sky as sunrise approaches, set for around 7:10 a.m. Eastern officially. You can see some of those cumulus clouds that I was mentioning early in the broadcast, illuminated by the uh, just beginning to rise sun. A little bit of sunlight now creeping across the space coast. If you haven't already, you could do us a big favor just by clicking that like button and sharing the stream to allow some more folks to find their way into this live launch coverage. As we're gearing up for the so-called big event, it's set to start around T minus 20 minutes and 20 seconds. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about the Falcon booster that will be supporting today's mission. Again, this is booster 1085 that's set to take flight in support of Starlink 10-27 today. Its first outing was on another mission supporting the Starlink constellation, Starlink 10-5 back on August 20th of 2024. Originally, the first launch of this booster was actually what ended up being the second to launch of the Crew 9 mission on Dragon Freedom. That didn't happen until September 28th. This booster, while it was being transported, was damaged and there was a little bit of water intrusion. And so, in order to validate the fixes that were made, SpaceX and NASA decided to go ahead and fly it on the Starlink mission first before preparing it for the Crew 9 mission. Following that, there was another Starlink flight, Starlink 6-77, on November 7th. And then a GPS satellite, ultimately, but originally flying under the codename mission RRT-1, later revealed to be the Rapid Response Trailblazer, as Space Systems Command and assured access to space alongside the commercial partners of Lockheed Martin behind the GPS constellation and SpaceX, obviously the launch provider, moved around the launch and the timing for that GPS satellite, originally set to fly on a Vulcan rocket. There was a little bit of trade-off there, so ULA with its Vulcan will fly one of the later GPS satellites, but they wanted to get this one into the medium Earth orbit. So they decided to pull it up and fly it on this Falcon 9 rocket back in December. Next up for this booster was a pair of moon-bound landers, Firefly Aerospace's Blue Ghost Mission 1 and iSpace's Hakuto R2. Next up was the From 2 mission, commercial free-flying Dragon flight using the Dragon called Resilience. This is the first crew to fly polar orbit, lifting off on April 1st of this year. Another batch of Starlink satellites, Starlink 6-93 on May 7th, followed by the 10th satellite for Sirius XM, the SXM-10 vehicle, launching June 7th. Followed up by a European mission, the MTGS-1/Sentinel-4 on July 1st. And most recently, we saw the launch of Starlink 10-20 on August 14th. Of course, we're just about 23 and a half minutes away from flight number 11, Starlink 10-27. Here are the booster turnaround times for each of those previous flights. 10 out T minus 20 minutes, 39 seconds and counting. In just about 10-ish seconds, we should start to see the big vent from the strong back there. The SpaceX is thermally conditioning the feed lines prior to second stage LOX load. And there goes the vent. Now T minus 17 minutes, 30 seconds and counting. Got just about a minute remaining on this venting before it wraps up and sets the stage for second stage liquid oxygen load to begin at T minus 16 minutes. Just taking a quick peek at the live chat, it sounds like we've got a number of folks who are lining up along their respective part of the coast to catch a glimpse of this Falcon 9 rocket as it takes flight. Just under 16 minutes now. Second stage liquid oxygen load is underway. Taking a look at our super wide shot here at the press site, see a couple things worth pointing out. Number one, the cumulus clouds hanging around, so it should be a nice backdrop to the liftoff this morning. Also, you can see the countdown clock is illuminated here at the press site, and there's a stage set up on the right-hand side of your screen as well. This is in service of the upcoming launch of NASA's IMAP rideshare mission, which is targeting launch on the morning of Tuesday, September 23rd at 7:32 a.m. Eastern. We'll, of course, have live coverage of that mission and all the spacecraft on board. So be sure to subscribe to Spaceflight now so you don't miss our coverage of that, as well as many other missions happening this week. It is quite a busy launch week as things have shaped up. Got multiple flights between, well, honestly, we've got a launch literally every day from now till Thursday. You can head on over to our website, spaceflightnow.com, and check out the launch schedule for the latest on the timing and the departure points for all of those missions. That includes a launch scheduled for midweek of a United Launch Alliance Atlas rocket carrying the latest batch of Amazon's Project Kuiper satellites up into low Earth orbit. Amazon looking to compete Kuiper against the likes of SpaceX's Starlink and some of the others that offer satellite internet service. Time now T minus 12 minutes, 20 seconds and counting as we're getting ready to see SpaceX's latest Falcon 9 rocket take flight in just about a dozen minutes. Let's go ahead and talk about the workhorse vehicle for SpaceX, the Falcon 9 rocket, which stands 70 meters or 229 feet in height and has a diameter of 3.66 meters or 12 feet. Majority of that, of course, is made up by the rocket's first stage. The booster, in this case, is B-1085, looking to make its 11th trip to space today. At the base of the first stage are 9 Merlin engines, which burn a rocket-grade kerosene and liquid oxygen and produce 1.7 million pounds of thrust at liftoff. Around the engine compartment are black carbon fiber landing legs that will be used to land the first stage on the drone ship. Today, SpaceX will be using the vessel called a shortfall of gravitas. Above the first stage is the inner stage. This is a composite structure consisting of an aluminum honeycomb core surrounded by carbon fiber. In the image on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the deployable hypersonic grid fins. These are titanium winglets that provide stability and steering for the Falcon 9 as it comes back through the atmosphere, tail first like a big old dart heading towards the drone ship. At the top of the inner stage are 3 mechanical latches that attach to the vehicle's second stage, and at first stage main engine cutoff, high-pressure helium is used to release those latches, and 4 pneumatic pushers ensure a clean separation. Also, the second stage engine nozzle is housed safely inside the inner stage adapter until the point of stage separation. Speaking of the upper stage of the Falcon 9, it's powered by a single modified Merlin engine, which is called an MVAC engine. It's equipped with a large nozzle, which is optimized for burns in the vacuum of space. Prior to the deployment of the 28 Starlink VT mini satellites, there will be 2 firings of the upper stage engine. After they are deployed into low Earth orbit, there will be 1 final engine burn for the upper stage, driving it back into the atmosphere where it's designed to burn up and help eliminate creating more space debris on this mission. Finally, at the top of the Falcon 9 stack are the payload fairings, which are currently encapsulating the 28 Starlink satellites. The fairings are made up of a carbon composite material and stand 13.1 meters or 43 feet in height and are 5.2 meters or 17.1 feet in diameter. The 2 fairing halves will be jettisoned a few minutes into the mission, make their way back through the atmosphere, and are designed to splash down on the waters of the Atlantic Ocean under the support of steerable parachutes. Once down in the waters, like with the booster, they will be brought back through Port Canaveral and then off to the Hangar X site here at the Kennedy Space Center, where they will be refurbished and turned around for future missions. Time now T minus 8 minutes, 45 seconds and counting. One of the benefits of launch this hour is you can still bring in some celestial neighbors as we are also getting a little bit of daylight on the rocket itself. You're looking at our largest gas giant in our solar system neck of the woods. This, of course, is Jupiter. You can see some of Jupiter's moons both above and below it here in this frame as well. This view at the top of the frame, you can see the moon of Europa, which is, of course, the destination of NASA's Europa Clipper mission, set to arrive in the early 2030s. Down below are Io and Ganymede. Io is on the left, Ganymede is on the right. We certainly appreciate our friend Pete for providing these views for us this morning. Just about 7.5 minutes remaining before the planned liftoff of this Falcon 9 rocket. Starting to get some really nice color in the sky. Let's look back at the turn basin view here. We'll pop into this view periodically. Keep your eyes on the water. Things are dark and cool enough that we may see a cameo by either a dolphin or a manatee as we're cruising on through the count. Perhaps an alligator as well. Just past the 7 minute mark in the countdown to this morning. At this point, SpaceX is flowing a small amount of liquid oxygen through the plumbing and turbo pumps, helping to protect those engines from the risk of thermal shock and damage during startup. Coming up next, at the 6 minute point in the countdown, that's when the first stage RP-1 tank should be full. I will agree with one of our channel members in the chat, Mel Roberts Harold, who says it's always a good day when one sees a dolphin. It's very true. Just under 6 minutes now. Want to thank the more than 2,700 of you who are watching along with us live, whether you're here in Florida or elsewhere around the world. Certainly appreciate you being with us in these final minutes before what should be a pretty spectacular launch this morning. If you haven't already, you could do us a big favor just by clicking that like button and sharing the stream. I'd like some more folks to find their way into this live launch coverage.
Stromback retract automation has started.
And as you heard and can see on your screen, the clamp arms just beneath the payload fairings are opening up as the strong back is getting ready to recline away from the Falcon 9 rocket. Looks like some pretty new payload fairings up at the top of that Falcon 9 today. SpaceX is working to certify both its first stage boosters as well as its payload fairings for up to 40 flights apiece, but even with that, they still need to bring some new fairings and new boosters into the mix periodically. Coming up at the 3 minute mark, we should hear a call that the Falcon 9's first stage liquid oxygen tank is full. Stand by for that call out.
Stage 1 LOX float is complete.
With that good call, we should be hearing something similar regarding the rocket's second stage around T-minus 2 minutes.
Stage 2 LOX float is complete.
And with that good call, we're fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant on that Falcon 9 rocket. Momentarily, you should be seeing some additional venting. You can see it in our tracker view if we can go to that. That is the ground gas closeouts as SpaceX is releasing the remaining liquid oxygen from the feed lines there at the pad.
Gas launch closeouts.
There's that good call you just heard. We're coming up on the final minute of the count, during which the Falcon 9 will switch over to its automated final countdown. One minute and counting.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Good call there. We're now just awaiting the SpaceX launch director to confirm that they are go for launch.
Launch director, go for launch.
And with that, we're just about 30 seconds away from what's shaping up to be a very stunning sunrise launch from Florida's Space Coast.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Fifteen seconds. And here we go. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine ignition and liftoff. Liftoff with the Falcon 9 on Starlink 10-27. The Falcon 9 has cleared the tower.
Power and telemetry normal. Falcon is supersonic. Max Q.
A little more than a minute into the mission, rocket passing through max Q, point of greatest aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. Now throttling its engines back up. It's coming up on MVAC chill, the thermal conditioning of the feed line or of the rocket's upper stage.
And back chill started.
There's that good call out. We're coming up to a few events in fairly rapid succession. Excellent tracking work by our team here today, by the way. At about T plus 2 minutes and 24 seconds, we should see first stage main engine cutoff, or MECO, followed by stage separation, and then the ignition of the Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage. Payload fairings should jettison just about at the 3-minute mark. Roughly 10 seconds to MECO. MECO.
Main engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
And back ignition.
Good calls, good visuals. Coming up on fairing separation. Roughly 5 seconds. And there go the fairing halves.
Separation confirmed.
And really nice tracking views here. You can see the two fairing halves glinting from the sun in between the second stage on the left-hand side in the big box, the booster on the right, and a nice jellyfish effect this morning. Those puffs that you're seeing from the booster on the right, those are the cold gas thrusters. Those help the booster orient. You can see just a little bit of a jellyfish looking super wide here. Not quite as stark as you could see some mornings, just given the level of light that we've got in the area, but still quite a beautiful sunrise here over Florida's Space Coast. Coming back to the rocket views, still got both the booster and the second stage in the big box. SpaceX onboard camera views on the right-hand side of your screen. Coming up, the next milestone will be at T plus 6 minutes and 11 seconds when the entry burn will begin. SpaceX will reignite 3 out of the 9 Merlin engines at the base of B1085 to help slow the vehicle down dramatically. That burn will last less than 30 seconds in total. A little more than 5 minutes into the mission so far. We've got less than a minute till the start of that entry burn.
Stage 1 FTS has safed.
Call regarding the flight termination system.
Stage 1 entry burn. Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And with the conclusion of that entry burn, SpaceX is now aiming for the start of the landing burn. That's set to begin at about T plus 8 minutes, so 1 minute from now. That'll be a single engine burn that cushions the touchdown on the drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas.
Stage 1 transonic. Stage 1 landing burn.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
Stage 1 landing light deploy.
Stage 2 FTS saved.
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And a good recovery of B1085.
MVAC shutdown.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And with confirmation of a nominal orbit insertion and a very nice view of the Earth down below, the upper stage of the Falcon 9 will continue on its coast phase until about T plus 54 minutes and 56 seconds. There will be a brief 1 second burn to circularize the orbit, and then the Starlink satellites are set to deploy at T plus 1 hour, 4 minutes, and 18 seconds post liftoff. So a beautiful start to Sunday. Falcon 9 rocket lifting off from the pad, beginning the journey for the Starlink 10-27 mission. Taking a look back at our live chat, want to thank Airplanes on a Stick for a $2 super chat, who says, "Let's go SpaceX. Let's go Spaceflight now." Appreciate the kind words of affirmation there. With a good liftoff and landing, we're going to go ahead and turn now to our mission stats as they currently stand. We will have our launch replays coming up for you momentarily. So let's go ahead and talk about the mission stats in the interim. Today's flight was the 11th for B1085. This was SpaceX's 536th Falcon 9 launch to date, the 119th of 2025 so far. This was SpaceX's 471st Falcon booster reflight, with a launch of a booster that has flown at least once. This was the company's 161st orbital launch within the last 365 days, the 280th for SpaceX from Pad 40, and the 335th orbital launch from this pad as well. Here's our updated bar chart now, with this good launch having cleared the pad. Moving on to some recovery stats for SpaceX. We just witnessed the 125th good landing on the drone ship called a shortfall of gravitas. That was SpaceX's 413th drone ship landing and the 508th overall booster landing to date for SpaceX. Finally, with some industry stats, today's mission marked the 80th launch from the Sunshine State of Florida. Taking a quick peek just to see where things stack up compared to years past for Florida stats. The record was 93 missions last year. We've already gone well past the 72 launches for all of 2023. And between SpaceX and upcoming planned launches from both Blue Origin and ULA, we're for sure going to see Florida pass 93 missions this year. And it's feeling like the year that Florida breaks 100. This was the 125th orbital launch from U.S. soil across the country, the 137th from U.S. rocket company, and the 216th orbital launch around the globe. There have been 5 orbital launch failures so far this year. Here's where our pie chart now currently stands. China still holding on to a solid quarter of the pie. And Russia in the 3rd spot with its 13 launches so far in 2025. And so we've got the replays ready now, starting with the fixed site view from Adam Bernstein. Moving on to the wide view. Now to the turn basin. Now to P. Carson South Tracker. As we saw at liftoff, there were certainly cumulus clouds in the area, and from Pete's angle, they were a little bit more interfering than they were at the press site. Now to Pete's wide camera. Now on to Chuck and Jen Briggs. And finally to Adam's tracker here at the press site. as we're peeling away from this tracker view from Adam, the great job he did with the tracking and the setting of the cameras. There were some really nice shots across the board here this morning, so well done to him. Fading out with some tint from the rising sun on the crew access tower and the strong back. Want to share just one more piece of media before we go ahead and wrap things up. This is a look at our photographer Michael Kane's vantage point from St. Cloud, further inland in Central Florida. You can see the jellyfish there and the four pieces of the rocket as we were seeing them after the fairings were deployed. You can see the second stage there, the brightest on the left, the fairing halves in the middle, and then the booster just on the right. We've got one more angle that really gives a more of a holistic view of the jellyfish effect. And that'll go ahead and do it for us here at Spaceflight Now today. I want to thank our friends Pete Carsons with Max Q Productions and Chuck and Jen Briggs at C&J Images. Appreciate their assistance with tracking. As a reminder, you can head on over to our website, spaceflightnow.com, look up the launch schedule, but we do have missions, again, scheduled for every day from here till Wednesday or Thursday, actually. Got the launches of NROL 48 coming up next on Pad 4 East out at Vandenberg. That is tomorrow late morning for those on the West Coast, early afternoon here on the East Coast. That'll be followed by NASA's IMAP rideshare mission going off 39A on Tuesday morning, followed on Wednesday by another Starlink mission from Vandenberg, made possible by the fact that the NROL 48 mission is not using a drone ship this time, having that booster return to landing zone 4. And very early morning Starlink back here at Pad 40 on the morning of the 25th. And then an Atlas V launch to cap things off for our run of launches going through the midweek. And if that weren't enough, because of course it's never enough, this week is also when we'll get to meet our newest class of astronauts that are going to be introduced by NASA at the Johnson Space Center coming up on Monday afternoon. We're actually heading out to JSC later today, so be sure to check out our coverage of that unveiling. Going to be able to sit down with one of the astronauts as well, so looking forward to that conversation. Astronaut candidates, I should be very specific. These are the astronaut candidates will then go through a couple years of training before they're certified as full-fledged astronauts. And the flies will soon no longer be NASA's newest batch of astronauts. Also, on Tuesday and Wednesday, there are going to be quite a bit of robust learnings and mission briefings regarding next year's Artemis 2 mission. So we'll be sticking around, of course, for all of that. And be sure to subscribe to the channel and keep up to date with our upcoming Artemis coverage as we're coming into the final months now before the liftoff of the next moonbound mission and the first crewed launch in the Artemis program. I want to thank Donald Evans, DJE, for a $2 super chat. Thank you, Donald. Also want to thank our moderators in the live chat who have been helping us out today. Big thanks to Mark Otto and Aussie Space Girl. Thanks, of course, as well to our photography team who did just an excellent job with today's coverage. As always, you can follow them at their handles on X Adam is at A Burn NYC, Michael Kane at MD Kane Jr., John Pisani at John Pisani Photo. And be sure to follow Spaceflight Now, simply at Spaceflight Now. Throughout the day, you can keep tabs on pad 39A for the rollout of the Falcon 9 rocket that will be used for the IMAP mission. Again, that's over on our 24/7 stream Launchpad Live, along with views of the Starship rocket that is gearing up for future static fire tests ahead of Flight 11. Thanks as well to our Spaceflight Now editor, Stephen Young, and to John for running the technical operations of the broadcast. For all of us here at Spaceflight Now, I'm Will Robinson Smith. Remember, be good to yourselves, be good to others. We will see you next time, folks. And until then, bye-bye.